this guy. How's your hair? Look all right here?
Yeah, not bad, right?
This
a little unmanageable at this length.
This, by the way, folks, last week we talked to a young man, number 25 for the Coyotes, Vaughan Rody. He talked about his father, the NHL official. His father is right here, so we welcome Vaughan Rody to tonight's show. Just to go back, Vaughan has participated in a little over 1,100 NHL games.
I have, Tom, yeah. I think I'm at about 1164, maybe.
1164, that's getting right up there.
Yeah.
Now,
it's almost time to retire.
You're kind of on an injured sort of resist. And tell us how that kind of happened and who you were trying to stop back last spring.
Yeah, so last March, Milan Lucic, we had a game, Edmonton and Columbus, and Milan Lucic was being Milan Lucic, and he was trying to get into a little bit of rough stuff, and I was trying to save the other guy's life, really, and I had my hand wrapped into his jersey, and he went one way, and my rotator cuff went the other, and it was injured anyway, but it pulled it right out of the socket, ripped it off the bone. And
now, when you got into that fight, that was it for your hockey. You didn't finish the game.
Oh, yes, I did. It's actually that night was the game that my partner went out. Stevie Barton went out on a stretcher. McDavid took his legs out, and down he went about 5 minutes into the game, and he had to leave on a stretcher. Well, we're the third team on the ice, and we can't take days off or leave. You're injured, you got to kind of work through it. And mine happened at about the 13-minute mark, and I struggled through. The referees helped me. We struggled through. The players kind of knew that I was injured, and there was no really any mischief. But they kind of, they played within the rules, and we were able to finish.
Now, as an NHL official, you talked about breaking up a fight with Milan Lucic, who's probably one of your tougher customers, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. But at this level and at that league, they're all so professional. You put your hand on them. I'm 170 pounds. I'm 49 years old. I shouldn't be expected to wrestle some guy who's 255. They have enough responsibility, they have enough professionalism. When we touch them, they stop. And if they don't, if they didn't like it on Monday, they sure as heck aren't going to like it on Wednesday when I see them again.
But it is a tough hockey game and fast out on the ice, isn't it?
It is extremely fast, and it's only getting faster. Yeah.
Now, Vaughan grew up in the Winnipeg area, and I take it there was always a want to referee there, was there?
Yeah, like any Canadian kid, we grew up, we played the game, and I played till I was 17 years old, and I realized, at about 16 that I wasn't going to make it to the NHL as a player, so I had to go a different avenue, and it just worked out. I started going back and refereeing young 16, 17-year-olds just to make, or 6 and 7-year-olds just to make a little bit of extra money, and within 2 years, I was doing Junior A hockey in Manitoba. 2 years after that, I was in the Western Hockey League. And then 3 years after that, they hired me full-time in the Western League. And the Western League moved me to Seattle. And so the journey began, really.
Now, when you played, listen to me. When you refereed in the Western League, were you refereeing or were you lining?
Well, you go as one or the other, Tom. So I was a linesman. I've always been a linesman. I mean, I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed back home in school, but I realized math at the time was pretty good. There was 2 linesmen's job for every 1 referee at the time. It was only a 3-man system.
So you like those odds?
Yeah, I'm a pretty good odds guy, and I thought, I got to give myself the best chance possible.
And then you moved to Seattle.
Moved to Seattle.
Was that kind of a leap of faith sort of thing?
Yeah, I had a pretty good job. I was working as a supervisor of site operations for the Forks Renewal Corporation. Anybody who knows Winnipeg knows that that's a pretty substantial job. I was living at home. I think I was probably making at the time $15,000 more than my father was, who was working at the railroad. And when his youngest son told him that he was going to go to Seattle, to another country, and chase his dream, my dad looked at me like I had 2 heads. I didn't know whether I was going to get hell or hello. So I was nervous when I packed the U-Haul trailer, but 19 years later, it's really worked out, and I don't think he or I would have had it any other way.
No, and were you happy to be leaving Portage and Maine in winter?
Isn't that the truth? I tell my brother, all my family's back home, I tell him we don't have to shovel rain, my friend. We don't have to shovel rain.
Now, you also worked at Boeing, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Before I got hired to the NHL, I got hired as a sealer for the first year, and then after my first year, I applied to be an inspector. I got hired as an inspector on the 777 program, and I worked at Boeing for 3 years doing both jobs. I would work from 5:18 in the morning to 1:18 in the afternoon. I would jump in my car, chase the dream, as we say. I would drive to Portland, 3.5 hours, ref the game, drive back home, and get back in bed at about midnight, and sleep, wake up, and do the whole thing again. If we had to go to Tri-Cities, we went. We had to go to Spokane, we went, and that's kind of how it went.
So what was it like October 8, 2000, when you got that call and you're off and you're doing the game between St. Louis and Anaheim down in California? How did that feel? Did you have the willies, the butterflies?
For sure. It's like anything, as a player, you remember your first game, and as a referee, it's no different. I mean, we chase the dream just like they do. I'm watching these 3 young guys out here today, and they want to be in the National Hockey League like these players do. And it's a long path, and you need some breaks along the way, and you need some luck. I was very excited. I was honored. I think I took a minute to remember all the people who weren't as fortunate as me and never had the opportunity to put that black and white jersey on with that crest. It's a pretty special crest.
Now you were at the training camp in Buffalo.
I was.
And you. But were you on the ice even?
No. So when you're injured, you don't participate in any of the activities. So I didn't do any of the fitness. I didn't do any of the on ice stuff. I was not cleared by the medical doctor. So we'll just play it by ear. I'm going to try to rehab it and see how it goes. It's an unfortunate injury, but we're not an inspector of Boeing anymore.
No,
we're out
exactly.
trying to keep these players safe, and I have to be at 100% to do that.
And so, did you take part in discussions or any of that sort of stuff right now?
Yeah, I was. All the new rules. We went over new rules. We went over different standards that the league's going to adhere to this year. Gary Bettman, Bill Daly came in, and it's a training camp like anybody.
Did Bettman and them talk to you guys?
They come every year, and it's such a professional thing. I mean, it's run just incredibly. It really is, from top to bottom.
So when you're going to referee, the NHL head office, I guess, tells you, here's your schedule. Is that it?
Yeah, so we have a guy actually, and he's an assigner, and he's out of Toronto. He's been doing the job. Actually, it's 19 years for him. He got hired the same year I did. And he gives our assignments out about 6 weeks in advance. We do our own booking, but we don't pay anything. We put our money down, or we put our credit card down at the hotel. We're reimbursed right away. They have to reimburse us within 14 days, but everything's paid for. We get
meals too, and all that.
We get a per diem. We have per diem every day, and it's first class. It really is.
What does an NHL official do the days you're not officiating at night? You watch the hockey game? Do you relax, or what's?
Yeah, if we're on a road trip, our road trips are usually about 11 to 12 days, and then we're back home again for 3 or 4. On days off, you have to recover. Your body just needs to recover. If you have 2 days in a row or 3 games in a row, sometimes it's different time zones, different travel. I mean, it's up early. We don't board the private jets like by the players.
So you go regular, yeah.
Yeah, we do go first class, but it's still, you're going through the lines, and that's exhausting. It's tiring, and you need to maintain a certain fitness level too. So you got to go to the gym. I mean, it's a full-time job.
So now, when you're out there and you're going to these games, what type of a pregame chat or things do you guys have?
Yeah, we start every day at noon, where we'll wake up in the morning. We'll go for I'll go for a workout. I'll meet everybody at noon. The
other members of the officiating
crew.
There's
4 of us that game. I mean, we all stay at the same hotel. Everybody obviously has their own room and stuff, and everyone does their own thing because they're professionals. But we stay at the same hotel. We'll meet. If our veterans of the staff decides lunch is at 12:30, then lunch is at 12:30. We'll have lunch. We'll come back. We'll probably have a little nap, iron my shirt, put my suit on, get ready to go to the rink about an hour and a half before game time, maybe 2 hours. Stretch. Some guys get their skates sharpened. We have a pregame meeting.
You talk about different players, what
absolutely,
they do.
Yeah, the NHL they bring in all the game notes. We go over the game notes. We see who was roughhousing last week, who fought who last time they played. We go over it. I mean, it's a job, and we treat it as such.
Well, that's interesting. So you really get Did you do game films and all that
Yeah,
stuff?
we get a computer that we travel with. It's a little iPad, and all of our games are all of our clips are sent to us after. You don't want too many clips, I'll be back at Boeing, I can tell you that. But you do get the occasional clip that you might want to look at this again, or maybe you might want to have a different angle this time. And we all have to learn. I mean, like I said, 1,100 games in this league, and 19 years, we're still learning.
Now, question, last year I think we were watching, and they now have those replays to tell on the offsides, and I think at one time they were looking if a skate blade was up a quarter of an inch off of the ice. Is that carrying it too far?
Yeah, well, you know what? I think that's out of my pay range. Those guys who are a little bit making more money than me, they can decide what we do, and they'll tell us, and we'll do them. But I mean, I think that might take away a little bit of the spirit of the rule for sure. But at the end of the day, if it's offside, it's offside, and goals shouldn't count. I mean, really, at the end of the day, play within the rules, and if it's wrong, hey, we'll admit it. I'm not too big to admit that I've made mistakes, and plenty of them.
Well, see, we're just about ready for the teams to go out in the ice. Coyotes I guess the coach is going to have to do something, because they just weren't too much up on that first period.
No, it happens that way sometimes too. And as you know, you've been around this game a long time. It snowballs. You get one, you get two. Before you know it, it's 5-0. But I don't think that's particular of the game. I mean, the Revelstoke's a good team, but I think these guys are pretty good too.
Oh yeah, they'll come back. We're a young team, and you're going to have to take some of this
too, for sure.
Well, Vaughan Rody, thanks for coming up, and you're going to be back a few times. We'll get you.
I am going to come back as much as I possibly can. It's funny, I was saying to my wife today that I'm probably more nervous watching his games than I am in my own. It's crazy how that works.
And she's home now, is she?
She's actually in Tri-Cities with our other son. He's playing tonight. So
the hockey, the sports family.
I'm getting the updates.
And you got a daughter of volleyball?
We do, yeah. We have a daughter in volleyball, and another son that is into golf. So
he's a golfer. He's a Tiger Woods.
Yeah, he really is. He actually is. So it's a sports family. They're great.
Vaughan Rody, folks. Vaughan, thanks for coming over and talking to us.
Anytime.
I'll put this up on the web so people can see it.
I look forward to it. Take care. Thank you very much.
Vaughan Rody, folks. Thanks, Vaughan.